first base I was on. Of course, that's the one I think I've told you about. That's one that Clark Gable came in.
Imagine fighting for a country that won't even let you sit in the same restaurant as white soldiers. They faced racism in Hollywood, but before that, they fought Nazis, flew bombers, and even saved fellow soldiers in World War II. These 20 black actors weren't just stars, they were warriors. And at number 1, a legend you won't believe. Number 20, Percy Rodriguez. Before his deep, commanding voice became legendary, Percy Rodriguez fought in one of the bloodiest wars in history. He faced an enemy abroad and another one back home in Hollywood. But what happened when he tried to claim his rightful place in the film industry? Born in Montreal, Rodriguez didn't just have to battle war, he had to battle stereotypes. His rich baritone voice and dignified presence made him perfect for serious roles, yet Hollywood only wanted black actors for limited parts. Before he became one of the first black actors to narrate major films, he fought for real on the battlefield. Rodriguez enlisted in World War II, serving in the Canadian military as a soldier. He fought Nazi forces in Europe, witnessing horrors most Hollywood actors never imagined. But after the war, he came home to another brutal reality. Hollywood wasn't ready for black actors to have strong, intelligent roles. But Rodriguez refused to settle. His talent was undeniable, and he found success as a powerful narrator, later voicing documentaries, films, and even horror trailers. His most famous work? Narrating the trailer for Jaws, one of the scariest movie trailers ever made. Rodriguez's voice was so iconic that many filmmakers specifically requested him for their trailers. He became the unseen force behind some of the greatest films of the 20th centuries. But the next man on our list? He was a butler on screen, but a warrior in real life. Stick with me. Number 19, William Walker. You've seen him in old Hollywood movies, polite, well-dressed, always in a secondary role. But before Hollywood put him in a box, William Walker was a real-life war veteran. Walker's Hollywood journey didn't begin with films. It began with a rifle in his hands and a war zone in front of him. He served in World War II, fighting for a country that barely saw him as equal. But what happened when he returned? Hollywood only wanted him for butler roles. Despite his talent, Walker was repeatedly cast as a servant, waiter, or driver. The industry refused to let black actors be anything more than background characters. But Walker, a man who had served his country in one of history's deadliest wars, refused to accept that. He became an advocate for black actors in Hollywood, pushing for better representation in film and TV. His most famous roles were in To Kill a Mockingbird and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, movies that highlighted racial injustice in their own way. William Walker played a significant role in helping younger black actors break into Hollywood. He mentored and advised rising stars, reminding them that if they could fight in war, they could fight for their rightful place in cinema. But our next actor? He wasn't just a soldier. He was Hollywood's first black heartthrob, and his war story is something you won't believe. Stay with me. Number 18, Lorenzo Tucker. Before Denzel Washington or Chadwick Boseman, Hollywood had Lorenzo Tucker, the first black heartthrob. But before his good looks made him a sensation, he fought in the war that shaped the world. What did he experience on the battlefield, and how did Hollywood react when he came back? Nicknamed the Black Valentino because of his striking resemblance to silent film star Rudolph Valentino, Tucker had a charm that made audiences swoon. But before World War II broke out, he put aside fame, picked up a rifle, and went to serve. Tucker enlisted and was assigned to a support unit, helping transport supplies and soldiers through war zones. It wasn't as glamorous as Hollywood, but it was real, and it was dangerous. After the war, Tucker returned home, expecting his service to mean something, but Hollywood saw him still as a black actor in a white industry. Studios didn't want black romantic leads, and suddenly the roles dried up. But Tucker wasn't one to give up. He returned to theater, carving out a legacy that inspired future black actors. He may not have gotten the Hollywood ending he deserved, but his war service and pioneering work opened doors for generations to come. Before his time in war and Hollywood, Tucker was handpicked by filmmaker Oscar Micheaux, the first major black director, to be the first ever black romantic lead in American cinema. But our next man? He wasn't just an actor. He was a producer, a businessman, and a war hero. His name? One of the most underrated in Hollywood history. Keep watching. Number 17, Noble Johnson. You might not recognize his name, but Noble Johnson was one of the most powerful black men in early Hollywood. He didn't just star in films, he owned a film studio. But before he made history in entertainment, he served in World War II. Born in the late 1800s, Johnson was one of the first black actors to play serious roles in Hollywood. While many black actors were forced into comedic or subservient roles, he played warriors, kings, and tribal leaders. But before he commanded the scene, he commanded troops. During World War II, Johnson was involved in the U.S. war effort, working behind the scenes to help produce war propaganda films. These weren't just movies, they were tools used to boost morale and recruit soldiers. His involvement was so significant that military officials worked closely with him to ensure the films reached diverse audiences. After the war, Johnson returned to Hollywood and founded Lincoln Motion Picture Company, the first black-owned film studio. While other black actors struggled to get roles, Johnson created roles. His company was dedicated to making films with strong black characters, breaking the industry's racial barriers before anyone else. Johnson was friends with Lon Chaney, the legendary horror actor, and worked with him in several films. Despite the racial climate of the time, Johnson built relationships that helped push black actors forward in the industry. But our next actor? He wasn't just an entertainer. He was a pioneer who changed the rules of Hollywood forever. And his war story? Even more fascinating. Stick with me. Number 16, Lee Whipper. Before Sidney Poitier, before Morgan Freeman, there was Lee Whipper, Hollywood's first black member of the Actors Equity Association. He was a groundbreaking actor, but what most people don't know, he also played a key role in World War II's morale-boosting efforts. Whipper wasn't just acting on stage, he was performing for soldiers in war zones, using his voice and presence to lift their spirits. His work helped keep the troops mentally strong during some of the most brutal battles. But even after serving his country, Hollywood didn't welcome him with open arms. Studios still wanted black actors to play only servants and criminals. Whipper, who had the talent and experience to play leading roles, was forced into stereotypical characters. Despite this, he never stopped fighting. He used his position in the Actors Equity Association to advocate for black actors, demanding better roles and equal pay. His influence changed the industry, paving the way for future black performers. Whipper played the unforgettable The Keeper in the Oxbow Incident, 1943, a film that tackled themes of injustice, something he had fought against his entire career. But up next, a man who didn't just fight for equality in Hollywood, he literally trained soldiers for war before ever stepping onto a film set. Stick around. Number 15, Canada Lee. Imagine being a boxer, a musician, an actor, and a military trainer. Canada Lee was a man of many talents, and during World War II, his mission wasn't just fighting. He was responsible for preparing soldiers for battle. Lee was enlisted to train troops in physical fitness and combat techniques. The military knew that war wasn't just about weapons, it was about endurance, strength, and survival skills. And Lee, with his boxing background, he was the perfect man for the job. After the war, he transitioned to acting, becoming one of the first black actors to break out of Hollywood's racial stereotypes. He refused to play demeaning roles, choosing instead to portray strong, intelligent black men. But Hollywood wasn't ready for a proud black man who spoke his mind. Lee was blacklisted during the Red Scare, accused of being a communist simply because he supported civil rights. His career was destroyed, and he died before Hollywood could fully recognize his contributions. Lee was handpicked by Alfred Hitchcock to star in Lifeboat, 1944, one of the rare films of the time that gave a black actor a serious non-stereotypical role. And next, a man who played a butler in Hollywood, but in real life, he served his country before stepping onto a movie set. Stay with me. Number 14, Napoleon Whiting. You've seen his face in classic films, always playing a loyal butler or servant. But in real life, Napoleon Whiting was far more than a Hollywood stereotype. He was a World War II veteran. Before he was cast in movies, Whiting served in the U.S. military during the war, working behind the scenes to support the war effort. His time in service shaped him, teaching him discipline and resilience, qualities that later helped him navigate a racially segregated Hollywood. When Whiting returned home, Hollywood only saw black actors in one way, as servants. He took these roles because they were the only ones available, but he played them with dignity, refusing to be a caricature. His most famous role? The butler in Giant, 1956, alongside James Dean and Elizabeth Taylor. Though Whiting didn't get the credit he deserved in his lifetime, his presence on screen helped pave the way for future black actors. He proved that even within the Hollywood system, black performers could bring depth and strength to any role. Giant was one of the first Hollywood films to tackle racism openly, and Whiting's role, though small, left a lasting impression. But our next actor? He didn't just serve in war. He later fought to change Hollywood from the inside. Stay with me. Number 13, Joel Fluellen. Some actors accept the roles they're given. Joel Fluellen fought for better ones. But before he changed Hollywood, he fought in a different battle, World War II. Fluellen served in the U.S. military, witnessing firsthand the racism within the armed forces. Black soldiers were often given the most dangerous and least respected jobs, but Fluellen refused to let that break him. After the war, he turned his focus to acting. But Hollywood, like the military, still treated black men as second-class citizens. Fluellen was frustrated by the constant servant roles and knew something had to change, so he took action. He became one of the first black actors to actively protest Hollywood's racist casting system. He worked behind the scenes, advocating for stronger, more dignified roles for black actors. His biggest breakthrough? Starring in A Patch of Blue, 1965, a film that tackled racial issues head-on. But his real legacy was his activism, because without Fluellen, Hollywood's doors wouldn't have opened so soon for others. Fluellen once walked out of an awards ceremony because the organizers refused to recognize black performers properly. He wasn't just an actor, he was a warrior for change. And up next, a man whose voice was so powerful that it became legendary. But before he became a Hollywood icon, he served his country. Stay tuned. Number 12, Juano Hernandez. Some actors struggle for recognition, others demand it. Juano Hernandez didn't need to demand anything. His presence alone commanded respect. But before he became a Hollywood powerhouse, he served his country in World War II. Born in Puerto Rico, Hernandez was a trailblazer in Hollywood. But his journey to the screen was anything but ordinary. Before acting, he was a sailor, boxer, and even a circus performer. And when World War II broke out, he put everything aside to contribute to the war effort. Hernandez served in a critical support role, ensuring that troops got the supplies they needed. His work wasn't glamorous, but it was essential. After the war, he returned to the U.S., determined to break into Hollywood. But Hollywood had other plans. They didn't want black actors in serious roles. That didn't stop Hernandez. He became one of the first black actors to be cast in a leading, non-stereotypical role in a major film, Intruder in the Dust, 1949. His performance was so powerful that it earned him praise from critics and audiences alike. Hernandez's role in Intruder in the Dust was one of the first times Hollywood depicted a black man as a hero standing against racism. And coming up next, a man whose Hollywood legacy is legendary, but his service in World War II is even more fascinating. Stay with me. Number 11, Robert Earl Jones. Before James Earl Jones voiced Darth Vader, his father, Robert Earl Jones, was already making history. But what few people know, he served in World War II before ever stepping onto a Hollywood set. Jones wasn't just an actor, he was a fighter, literally. Before Hollywood, he was a prize fighter, using his strength to make a living. When the war started, he enlisted and joined the fight for freedom. After the war, he faced another battle, Hollywood's racism. Black actors were rarely given serious roles, but Jones was determined to make a name for himself. His deep voice and commanding presence made him a natural performer. His big break came when he started acting in stage productions, which led to film roles in classics like The Sting, 1973, and Wild River, 1960. But his true impact? He paved the way for his son, James Earl Jones, who would go on to become one of the greatest actors of all time. Robert Earl Jones was once a sharecropper and later worked as a butler, experiences that shaped his acting career and gave authenticity to his performances. But coming up next, we enter the top 10, where things get even more intense. And trust me, you won't believe who's still on this list. Keep watching. Number 10, James Edwards. Some actors break barriers. James Edwards shattered them. Before he became one of Hollywood's first black leading men, he served in World War II, where he nearly lost everything. Edwards enlisted in the U.S. Army and was deployed overseas. But during his service, he suffered a severe leg injury, nearly ending both his military and acting careers. Doctors told him he might never walk again properly, but Edwards refused to accept that fate. Through sheer determination, he rehabilitated himself and returned home, now with an even bigger fight ahead, Hollywood's racism. Black actors weren't allowed to be heroes on screen, but in 1949, Edwards changed that when he starred in Home of the Brave, playing a black soldier struggling with PTSD. His performance was groundbreaking. For the first time, a black actor playing a leading role that wasn't a stereotype. He continued to break boundaries in films like The Caine Mutiny and Pork Chop Hill, proving that black actors deserve serious roles. Edwards was almost cast in The Defiant Ones, 1958, but Hollywood racism led him to being replaced by Sidney Poitier, another legend on this list. And at number 9, a man whose deep voice and wisdom made him unforgettable, but before that, he served his country. Keep watching. Number 9, Rex Ingram. Before Morgan Freeman played wise mentors, there was Rex Ingram. But what most people don't know? Before he guided Hollywood legends, he served in World War II. Ingram was known for his powerful screen presence, often playing dignified authority figures. But during World War II, he was an authority figure in real life, serving in the U.S. military and working with intelligence operations. After the war, he used his experiences to bring depth and gravitas to his roles. He starred in classics like The Thief of Baghdad, 1940, and Sahara, 1943, proving that black actors could hold their own in major Hollywood productions. Despite Hollywood's racial barriers, Ingram refused to take demeaning roles. He chose quality over quantity, even if it meant fewer acting opportunities. His legacy? He helped redefine what black actors could be on screen. Ingram was one of the first black actors to receive classical training in Shakespearean theater, something that set him apart from many of his contemporaries. But up next, a man who went from the battlefield to breaking new ground on TV. Stick around. Number 8, Lee Rollins. Some actors fight for roles. Lee Rollins fought for his country first. Before Hollywood, he was on the battlefield during World War II, serving in the U.S. military with honor. Rollins wasn't just another soldier. He was stationed in key combat zones, facing the harsh realities of war before ever stepping onto a Hollywood set. He saw firsthand what real struggle looked like, and that resilience shaped his career. After the war, Rollins returned to a different kind of battle, Hollywood's racial discrimination. Black actors were only allowed in minor, stereotypical roles, but Rollins refused to settle. He fought for better opportunities, using his real-life war experiences to add depth to his performances. Though he never became a household name, his impact on Hollywood was undeniable. His work on television and film helped pave the way for future generations of black actors, proving that they could handle complex, serious roles. Rollins was known for mentoring young black actors, helping them navigate Hollywood's racial challenges, a legacy that extended far beyond his own career. And at number 7, a man who changed Hollywood forever. But before that, he played a crucial role in World War II. Stay with me. Number 7, Clarence Muse. Clarence Muse was a man of many firsts. The first black actor to star in a Hollywood talkie, the first to write and direct his own films. But before all that, he served his country during World War II. Muse wasn't just an actor, he was an activist who used his talent to uplift black performers. During World War II, he helped with military morale campaigns, using entertainment to keep troops motivated. When he returned, Hollywood still tried to confine him to butler and servant roles. But Muse wasn't the kind of man to accept limits. He wrote, directed, and produced his own projects, fighting to create real, dignified roles for black actors. His activism changed the game, laying the foundation for civil rights progress in Hollywood. Without Muse's efforts, black actors might have been stuck in stereotypes for even longer. He didn't just act, he fought for change. Muse was one of the first black actors to appear on Broadway, making history long before he ever stepped onto a Hollywood set. And at number 6, a man who was more than just an actor. He was a symbol of breaking barriers, both in war and Hollywood. Keep watching. Number 6, Woody Strode. Some men are born warriors. Woody Strode was one of them. Before he became a Hollywood icon, he was a U.S. Army soldier during World War II, helping to break racial barriers in the military. Strode served in an all-black unit during the war, facing both enemy forces and racial discrimination from his own country. But he didn't let that stop him. His discipline, strength, and leadership helped him earn the respect of his fellow soldiers. After the war, Strode didn't just return to normal life. He became a professional football player before transitioning into acting. Hollywood was just as racist as the military, but Strode's sheer presence on screen demanded attention. His breakthrough role came in Spartacus, 1960, where he played a gladiator who goes toe-to-toe with Kirk Douglas. The role was groundbreaking. He was one of the first black actors to play a warrior rather than a servant. Strode was so physically imposing that even legendary director John Ford cast him in major films, despite Hollywood's racial biases. And at number 5, a man whose voice became his greatest weapon, both in war and in Hollywood. Stay with me. Number 5, Roscoe Lee Browne. Some actors have deep voices. Roscoe Lee Browne had a voice that could shake mountains. But before Hollywood, he was a World War II soldier serving in the U.S. Army. Browne wasn't just another soldier, though. He worked in intelligence operations, using his sharp mind and eloquence to serve his country. His role in the war prepared him for a lifetime of breaking barriers. After the war, he refused to take stereotypical roles. While other black actors were stuck playing butlers and sidekicks, Browne built a career based on intelligence, dignity, and pure talent. His voice became legendary, landing him roles in films like The Cowboys 1972 and Logan's Run 1976. Even in Hollywood, a place filled with discrimination, no one could ignore Roscoe Lee Browne. Browne became one of the first black actors to narrate major films and documentaries, proving that black voices deserve to be heard. And at number 4, a man who wasn't just a singer, he was a cowboy, a war hero, and a Hollywood legend. Keep watching. Number 4, Herb Jeffries. A black singing cowboy in Hollywood? Unheard of. But Herb Jeffries didn't just break barriers in entertainment. He also served in World War II, fighting for a country that barely acknowledged him. Jeffries was a jazz singer before the war, making a name for himself in Duke Ellington's band. But when the world needed him, he put down the microphone and joined the U.S. Army Corps. During the war, Jeffrey worked in aerial reconnaissance, gathering intelligence from the skies. He witnessed firsthand how black soldiers were treated unfairly, fueling his mission to challenge racial stereotypes in Hollywood. After the war, he returned home and did something no black actor had ever done before. He became a Western film star. He refused to play servants or criminals, instead starring in movies like Bronze Buckaroo, proving that black actors could be heroes too. Jeffries was so determined to create black strong characters that he produced and financed his own films when Hollywood wouldn't support him. And at number 3, a man who saved lives on the battlefield before saving black actors from Hollywood's racist system. Stick with me. Number 3, Ossie Davis. Ossie Davis wasn't just a great actor, he was a revolutionary. But before he challenged Hollywood's racism, he served in World War II as a medic technician, helping save soldiers' lives. Davis worked in an army hospital, treating wounded troops and witnessing the horrors of the war up close. He saw the price of freedom and how black soldiers were still treated as second-class citizens. After the war, he came home determined to fight another battle, Hollywood's discrimination against black performers. Alongside his wife, Ruby Dee, Davis became an outspoken activist, pushing for real change. He built a legendary career in films like Do the Right Thing, 1989, Malcolm X, 1992, and The Hill, 1965, proving that black actors deserved leading roles. But more than that, he opened the doors for future generations. Davis refused to take roles that demeaned black people, even turning down big paychecks if a screen promoted racial stereotypes. And at number 2, a man who used his fame to fight injustice, both on the battlefield and in Hollywood. Stay tuned. Number 2, Harry Belafonte. Before he became the king of Calypso, before his songs topped the charts, Harry Belafonte wore a Navy uniform and served his country during World War II. But his biggest battle wasn't fought overseas, it was against racism in America. Belafonte joined the U.S. Navy in 1944 and was assigned as a munitions loader at a naval base. Despite risking his life for his country, he and the other black sailors were treated as second-class citizens, denied the same respect as their white counterparts. It was in the military that he first began questioning the deep racial injustice in America. He saw how black men were expected to die for their country, but not be given the same freedoms at home. This fueled his lifelong dedication to civil rights. After the war, Belafonte studied acting, quickly rising to fame. He became the first black man to sell over 1 million records with songs like Day-O, the Banana Boat song, breaking racial barriers in music and film. But his activism was just as important as his art. He became a key figure in the civil rights movement, working alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., funding protests and using his fame to push for justice. He even bailed Dr. King out of jail on multiple occasions. Belafonte was blacklisted during the McCarthy era for his activism, but refused to back down. He once said, "I didn't serve my country just to come home and see racism continue." And now, at number 1, a man who went from war hero to the first black actor to win an Oscar. And his journey is one of the most incredible stories in Hollywood history. Stay with me. Number 1, Sidney Poitier. Sidney Poitier wasn't just a Hollywood icon. He was a fighter, a survivor, and a man who changed history. But before he shattered racial barriers on screen, he enlisted in the U.S. Army during World War II at just 16 years old. Born in the Bahamas, Poitier moved to the U.S. as a teenager. When the war broke out, he lied about his age to enlist, desperate for a way to support himself. He was assigned to a military hospital, treating wounded soldiers returning from battle. But what happened next would change his life forever. Poitier became frustrated with the way black soldiers were treated and, in a bold move, faked a mental breakdown to get an early discharge. Instead of continuing to serve a system that treated him unfairly, he left and set his sights on something even bigger, Hollywood. Breaking into the film industry was nearly impossible for black actors, but Poitier refused to play demeaning roles, turning down countless jobs until he got the one that treated him with dignity. His big break came in The Defiant Ones, 1958, where he became the first black actor nominated for an Academy Award. Then, in 1964, he made history. Sidney Poitier became the first black man to win an Oscar for Best Actor for his role in Lilies of the Field. His win wasn't just for him, it was for every black actor who had been overlooked, mistreated, or denied opportunities. Poitier once said, "I did not go into the army to be treated less than a man, and I did not go into Hollywood to be treated less than an actor." And that is how a war hero became a Hollywood legend. These war heroes changed history, on and off the screen. If you loved this, check out our next video for more hidden Hollywood stories. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.